Good afternoon and welcome to the Turn On training session for today. We will be taking a look at Teams and just how you can get started with Teams and how it will support the different communities in school. My name is Martin, I work for Turn It On and I'm also a global training partner for Microsoft. As you join us today, we will use several resources during the session, all of which you can find on Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn recently replaced the Microsoft Education Center, and you could easily find it by opening up a web browser and going to search engine and just search for Microsoft Learn. When you get there, in the top right-hand corner where the yellow finger is currently pointing, you'll need to sign in. You can do that with your Office 365 account that you have from your school or academy or trust. As you're signed in, you can then decide on your learning pathways. Those of you who've not used Microsoft Learn before, it's an excellent resource where you can set up your own professional development, and it could be just about getting to grips with a new application and how you want to look at your classroom. Or you could be a digital leader in school and you're looking at appropriate CPD programs for the wider staff. Everything is in Learn and you can study it in your own time. There's videos, there's guides. What you can do is accumulate badges after successful completion of courses, and it builds up as a portfolio evidence of the professional development you're undertaking. There are various pathways that you can complete in Microsoft Learn. The first is to become a Microsoft Educator, and the session that you've joined today supports that process. And we will cover during all of these sessions each of the elements that you'll need to undertake in the Microsoft Educator exam so you can successfully pass it. If you then want to go further, you can study the Microsoft Advanced Educator exams. There's two pathways there, one around Teams and another one around 21st Century Learning Design. And if you've got both of those under your belt, you can apply to become a Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert and Turn It On. We're running a curated program for that in January 2023 through to June 2023. There'll be more information about that available on the Turn It On website, which is www.events@turniton. First of all, then, we will have a look at what we're going to cover today. We'll consider how do you organize a team? What's the best way to structure it so that it becomes intuitive for people that are using it, and also so that it's nice and easy to navigate. After we've had a look at how to organize and structure your teams, we'll have a quick look at how you orientate the team and how you find the bits that are of interest to you, what they do, such as being able to communicate with people either in private chats or communal posts, also organizing meetings and starting to look at where you can keep some files within your team. Without any further delay, one of the first questions we often get is, well, just how do I get into Teams? You can install a dedicated app, and that's available for Windows. That's also available for Mac, and it's now available on Chrome OS as well from the Google Play Store. But if you don't want to install the app, or maybe you've got restrictions on your device because it's from your educational establishment, you can equally open up Teams in a web browser. Most of the major browsers support it, so Edge, Chrome if you are in Google or Chrome OS, and Safari if you're using Mac. Also, you could use Firefox. As long as it's a modern leading browser, it will work. It also has dedicated apps on mobile devices or tablets. Those will allow you to do everything that you can on the app. The only restriction, which we appreciate, is that if you've got a pupil or someone using a phone at home rather than a desktop device, that the space you've got on the screen is fairly restricted. So it's easier to view or quickly make comments, but it's more difficult to do something like complete a homework project. Teams is being updated all the time. One of the most recent developments that have come out for autumn 22 is that there are now class homepages. So if you've got a class team where you would have pupils and you'd have staff together, you can now have a homepage, and that homepage can be a welcoming environment, but it can also be a bit of a dashboard where you can see all sorts of important key information. That information itself is organized in a way where you can get announcements quite quickly. It might be news across your classroom. It could be seeing which assignments have been set for you. It could just be engaging with other students because they've made a post and actually you need to respond to that in the conversation in the class. But the Teams homepage was something that had been requested for a long time. And it really does act as that grounding landing site now, whereas it used to be just the general channel. Now it's got a purpose, it's got a place. And in additional webinars for the Microsoft Advanced Educator, we'll look at how you customize that and how you add that, but just to make you aware that that is there and it's something you can use. Teams itself is conceived as being a single point of access, is a hub for everything. Whether you've got a teaching and learning role in school, whether you're looking at professional development and CPD of the staff, whether you are thinking of organising student services, be that pastoral in some way. Equally, it could be about getting staff together, whether you're looking at subjects or faculties or key stages. There is plenty there where you can connect everything together, but the thing at the middle, the glue in everything, is Teams. It's also one single hub for connecting everything that you might use. So as you'd expect, Office 365 apps are available and they work inside of Teams. You don't need to leave Teams, they just open up within it. That's also really good for staff that might find technology a struggle, but equally as good if you're working with pupils and students, because it's less of a distraction. They're not getting asked to go elsewhere in another program. Everything stays in the one single hub, and that is Teams. You've got all your key functions, which we've already mentioned some of, which is such as chats and meetings, and that's all there together, so you don't need to go off and look at things like Outlook necessarily. And then you've got all the third-party apps that you might use in schools. So you could have classroom quizzes, and they might be in a platform such as Kahoot. Well, Kahoot is easily pinned and added into the same single hub of Teams, so everything is in one place. With all of that, a consideration often comes up very early on is how you're going to organize your team. Now, depending on whether you're a primary school or a secondary school or a college, you can organize them in different ways. What tends to happen is that you will get a single team, and that single team in a primary school will represent a class or a staff team. But in a secondary, you might have a team and then it's divided up by things called channels, which we'll look at in a little bit. And the channels are a way of signposting people to different areas within your team. Think of them a little bit like paper dividers inside of a lever arch folder. It just helps to bring people into the right section so they know where they've got to go. That needs to be discussed and agreed before you start to rush in and set your teams. Now, you can do that setup manually, but equally, you could do that setup through an automation tool, such as a sync tool, which takes data from your MIS system, like School Data Sync from Microsoft, and then uses that to add the correct staff to a team if it's a staff team, or the correct staff and pupils to a team if it's a class team. Once you've got those teams set up, you just need to think about how you're going to launch it across the school. If you just throw technology in, and you've probably experienced this, it will flounder quite quickly and staff won't know what to do with it. So it's really important that you plan the rollout. You have plenty of capacity internally with digital leaders to support staff. You might pick student or pupil digital ambassadors, which helps to support the pupils and the students when they're coming to use the platform. But don't forget the wider community beyond the staff and the pupils, that you've got governors that might use this. You also may have parents which are now using it as well. And all of those need to be considered in making sure that everyone feels like they're included. They understand the purpose of having Teams as a single hub, but more importantly, they know how to get to the information they need or how to communicate effectively with it. If you're going to do that change, it's probably best to have a phased approach and maybe a rollout over a period of time. Could be by year group, could be by key stage phase, but it's better than just going in straight away and having everything happening in one go, because it will just be too much change and you will lose some people with that change curve. When you come to set up a class team, or a staff team, or a professional learning community, or another team, you will have to make some choices. Different types of teams are there for different purposes, and as you can see from the slide that we're currently on, you have a class team, and as you've already guessed from what we're saying, that's where teaching and learning takes place. That's where staff would work with pupils or students. Professional learning communities tend to be the best place to have things like trust teams or governors. Staff teams are where you would have groups of staff working together, either whole staff or specific subgroups of staff. And other teams are a little bit of a catch-all. And what they do is, if you're not quite sure, it gives you a platform to create, which you can bend and meld either way. What we'll do at this point is we'll jump out of the presentation and we'll go across and have a look at an example of a team. We are going to use the web browser version of Teams today, and there isn't a lot of differences between it, some very subtle differences, but most of the time the functionality that you need is available there in the browser. We're going to use the Edge browser from Microsoft today, but as I've said previously, you can use absolutely any browser you like as long as it's a modern browser. Legacy old browsers do not work. So you open up your browser, and in the address bar at the top, you type www.office.com, and what that will do is take you to the sign-in page for Office 365. You enter your email address, and that's your username that you've got from school or college, and then the password, that'll be the same one that you use to get into your emails, and it's either going to bring you to a landing page like this, or it's going to take you into your Outlook. If you arrive here at the landing page, that's fine. You can click Teams on the left-hand side from the launcher. But on every area of Office 365, you've got the app launcher. And if you click the app launcher, out will come the apps that you either use most frequently or the ones that you've decided to pin there. And you should have Teams, and you click on it and it will open another tab. If you don't see Teams there, it's not the end of the world. You come down to the bottom left, you click all apps, and then alphabetically in order, there will be Teams, and you can click on it from there. So either way, it will take you over to another tab, and then you will come into Teams. Depending on the privileges you have as a member of staff in the school, you'll either be able to come in and join a team, and it will say here, instead of having lots of teams, there'll be a box with a join code. Or if you've got it in the top right hand corner, that's where you go create teams. Here you go. That's what you'd have join code if you've not got permissions to create a team. If you've got permissions to create a team, then you can go to create team. And if you go to create team, that's where you find the 4 different types of teams that we looked at previously. Coming back one step, for today's purposes, we've got lots of different types of teams. And as well as considering how you roll out teams across the school and how Office 365 is going to work, you also need to think about how many different teams you need to create. That can be done by IT admins to take the sort of administrative burden away from the staff. But the one thing to do is only make the teams that you need to and not make too many teams. Otherwise, it becomes really complicated and really baffling for people to use. The first thing that you normally set up is some form of staff team. And we'll go into an example demo staff team today. When you go into the demo staff team, every team has to have a general channel. But one of the considerations that you need to make when creating a staff team is just how to divide it up in these things called channels. So in here, I've got a channel for the admin team, another one for the business manager in school, one for the Senko, the inclusion team, and maybe one for the leadership team. You'll notice here, I'm logged in as an administrator at the moment. And if I was a normal member of staff, I would just see general plus any other channel that I've been given permission to join. I see the ones here that have padlocks on them. They are private channels, and they are ones that are restricted. When we set them up and create them, we can decide exactly who's a member of that channel, and then they will be included. So it might be that the office administration team in your school that are in reception would end up with access to that one. But what you wouldn't get at the same time is anyone in the school just being able to see it, because it's private, so it only appears to them. And the example of the senior leadership channel down the bottom, it's not got a padlock, so everybody in the whole school would see general and senior leadership. But when they clicked on senior leadership, if they hadn't been made a member, they'd be greeted with a message to say, you can request to join, otherwise, sorry, you don't have access. And whoever administrates or owns that channel can then decide if you want to let a person join or if they're going to be blocked from joining. To control what happens in Teams, if you don't have a sync tool, the 3 dots in the top right-hand corner will reveal a whole raft of options here. But the one that you would use to add a channel is there. If you want to manage a team, click on Manage Team, and there you can see the people that are owners. So an example I've got here, There's myself and a couple of other teachers that are owners. If you click the arrow at the bottom, you'll see there's a couple of other people that are included as guests, and they are the only people that can get into that team. It might be different on the separate channels, but overall for the general channel and the whole team, that's what's there. If you've got any requests, they'll be sat there. In here, you can see the different channels you've got, and you can decide whether you do want to see them, as I've got there as an administrator, whether actually there's just too much going on. I've been asked to create loads of channels for everyone else. I don't need to see them. You've got various settings that you can add, such as name of team, the picture at the top, so that's customizable. You can also have things like codes, and if you were going to send someone a code to join your team, that's where you would go to generate a code. You'd give that code to the other people, and then if they don't have the ability to create a team, everyone has the ability to join a team, and you just give them the join code. You could email that if they aren't yet in teams, or if they've already got access to other teams, then they're probably in this environment, and you just give them the code. There's the ability to control some of the nice aspects, such as you could have gifts, you can have stickers, and all of that is there in the settings, and you've plenty of time to play around with it. If you want to know how much it's being utilized, there's always the analytics bar, and that's where you'll find out just how much your team's being used, what sorts of things are happening in your team. You can also decide the sorts of apps that you've got available to you. If something does require an update, you can click update and it will apply the update for you. And then it will tell you that there's a new version of that app available and you can update it, and that will start installing in the background. If you want to get rid of an app, you just press the recycle bin and it will take it out, not just for you, but for everybody. And then finally, there's tags, and you can tag content or you can tag people, and that will help you to drill down and find information, because once teams start to grow, even with channels dividing them up, it can be a bit confusing. So in a staff team, you only get staff, you don't get any pupils or students. And so far, we've looked at how it's organized, but I want to introduce you to the we space. Down the side here, we've got the me space and the we space. So this is the we space across the top. It's things that we can do together. So we could post to each other, we can share files, we could get insights into what this team's doing. But the me space down the side are the bits that only apply to my private function. So I can always, when I come into Teams, see what activity has been going on. So I can see that there was an assignment recently set in one of my class teams. I could also have private chats with people. So this replaces the need to have separate messaging platforms outside of school. So over here, it could be a discussion about an urgent planning document, and actually have telling someone that they urgently need to get that planning sorted for another pupil or a student. And then I could, if I was going through my teams, I could come out of my team there, and I could go to my teams here, sorry, and this is where I get back to the view that we initially had. The teams themselves can be organized in different ways. So you can filter all types of teams, or you could just sort of class teams. You've got a teaching and learning focus. What you can also do is you can change the views. So instead of it being just a grid view like we've got there, you can have list views, and there's various different settings that can change. We will step past assignments for this training session. That is covered in training session 2 if you join us next time. But one other thing that you've got in here is your calendar. Your calendar is your personal private calendar, the one that you would see if you were in Outlook. And if you've got access to either of those, they duplicate. They're in sync all the time. If you happen to add something in your Teams calendar by going up and saying, I want to add a new meeting, you click new meeting. So it might be here we've got maths work moderation. And what we want to do is look at some of the work from the first week. I am going to ask my head teacher to come along, so I'm going to add them. I think that's all I'm going to do at the moment. I want it to be not quite so late, so we'll have it 3 o'clock to 3:30. And what we'll do is we'll have it tomorrow rather than today. And don't want to be too late leaving on a Friday. You can have that post to a channel. So if you think this is going to be of interest and other people are going to want to know, what you could do is, look, we've got the staff channel here. So what we could do is go to the staff demo team add in the general channel and we could notify everybody. That would be the whole staff, because all staff are traditionally in the general channel. Or what we could do is be more selective about that, and we could add a channel here, and in that channel we could go down the staff team, and actually we're just going to notify the leadership team, because it's a leadership team that wants to have a look at the work that's been going on, and then we send it, and that would go straight out, and it would appear in not just my calendar, but it would appear in the calendar of everyone else that's been invited. And if anybody else is interested in coming along in the leadership team, they will also see that notification in the leadership team posts, and they could click on it and join from there, even though they may not have that invite in their calendar. So calendars is a great way of communicating with colleagues, getting together. It's easier to get together into face-to-face meetings now, and it has been for the recent years, but sometimes you might have a split site, people might be not working in the building at the time, they might be away, so you could set a meeting up and people that are still not physically in the same locations, you can join a meeting. If you need to join that meeting, you click it and you press join. You can share a link for that meeting, so you can post that in the team. You could chat before it with the participants in that meeting, so that creates another chat, or you can edit it and you can go back in. And when you go in to edit, you've got various options to cancel the meeting or go in and change how the meeting's going to be organized, maybe add something else in the agenda, and there's a simple text editor there. You can also check things like attendance. You can see afterwards who attended, and if not anything else, you go back to the meeting details. So I'm just going to close that because I don't want to make any changes, but there's lots of choices there for you. So calendar, really useful to schedule meetings. That's also where you could go to a meet now. If you click meet now, it will be an instant meeting without a calendar invite, and then you can just add people to it on the fly. You just need to be really careful that, particularly with teaching and learning focused staff, that they're available to join a meeting and they haven't already got commitments elsewhere in the school. So we've covered chat. We've also had a look at calendar. If you decide to, your school could use Teams for their telephone system. It will require additional licensing, but it is possible to get Teams handsets, and that will change from there. We discussed files, but there are files here that are available to you. So in your file section, you can either look at files that have recently been added or edited in Teams. If you want to drill down a little bit more, you can click on the Teams on the left, and then it will show you the different Teams files that are available to you. But you could also get to your OneDrive from here as well. So instead of having to go to the separate OneDrive app, I've now got access to my OneDrive right here inside this single hub of Teams, and that philosophy is true all the way through Teams. If I nip back over to my staff team, there's also a files section separately to the me space on the left. In the we space, we, the staff, can get together and share files. If you are looking at the general channel, those files will be available to all staff. So you might have communal things in there like daily notices, policies, templates to go and pick up, things that the wider staff need to get. And one of the considerations of having Teams is that you don't have to have traditional server shared drives anymore, that these file sections can become the new shared drives, and anybody can get to them from anywhere. So it means that it's really easy to get to the resources that you require at any point, anytime. If you wanted to limit something, you could have for instance, a business manager channel, and in here might be a discussion over things like budgets or what we're doing elsewhere. I could have private files then, so only the people that are members of the business manager channel would be able to see the budget. And if I just had access to the general channel as a wider member of the school staff, maybe I'm a teaching assistant, I would never ever see the business manager channel, and I wouldn't be able to access the files that are in the business manager channel. I would only see the files that are there in the general channel. If we have a quick look at different types of teams that we've got available to us, as we said previously, the teams themselves have different purposes depending on the audiences that are there. Now, when we go into a team, they're arranged in different ways. So chats on the me space on the left are great for having a private chat where you wouldn't want anybody else to be privy to it. So I can start a new chat by pressing the pad and the pen on the side. I might then, with my head teacher again, add in Patty, and I've got a chat that I have been having with Patty here previously. So I might say, hello, how is the first week back going? Back, and then I might ask, are you free next week for a meeting? Monday for a meeting. And it might be that I just send a very simple text message and I press the arrow on the right. But if you want to go into more detail, you can press the A with the pen, text edit button, and all of a sudden you get another set of options at the top there. You've got simple text editing tools like bolds and italics. You can change colors of fonts, size of fonts. You can add bullet points. You can include links to websites. You can include tables and so forth. At the bottom here, you can change the importance. So if I wanted someone to see it as important, similar to the message up there, or urgent, and it would keep reminding people, I can have it as a standard. Can also attach files, be it from my local computer or from my OneDrive, where I would end up storing my personal private files. And then at the bottom, we've got various other functions that are available to us. So is this a member of staff? Depending on how well I know them and how formal this is, I could add a little emoji in there. All the emojis are available to staff and pupils unless you switch them off for pupils, but there's nothing in there that's offensive. They're all very innocent and there's nothing that's going to upset anybody. You've also got gifs if you wanted to say that you were particularly happy about something or wish somebody a happy birthday, maybe for social reasons. And when you're ready, as we said, you just press send on that and it will then end up stacking up in the calendar. If you want to turn this into a meeting, you can simply press the meet button at the bottom. It will take Patty's details from not getting anywhere from having that private chat, and it will bring it straight into a meeting, and I can set it. I'm just going to close that out because I don't want to send a meeting now. So chat is for private chat. Think it like messenger platforms use everywhere else, but now you've got all your information in the one place, and you don't have to worry about it. In a team, you've got posts. If we go into a staff team, with posts, this is communal. Chat in the me space, private. Posts are in the we space, that's communal. So here it might be that I've got that moderation of work samples. It might be that that I posted over into the leadership team one there, but this is the general one. It may be that I've got an example where an angry parent has written in and we're just trying to let the staff know that they're unhappy about a certain aspect of school life. It could be that we've got important updates for next week. So another feature to improve communication and access to notices from anywhere is to have things like staff briefings come into here. They could be, if it's a really short staff briefing or an important element of staff briefing, in a post, or you could have other platforms that we look at in subsequent webinars in this series, such as a staff notebook. And a notebook is a place where you have sections for each day of the week, or you could have pages for each day of the week within sections, and you could have a section be in each term, and then you can see the full list of notices there, but the important bits of notices come here in posts. So there's lots of reasons you might use posts. If you're going to have a new post, it says new conversation at the bottom. The initial tool is almost identical to chats. If you press the pen and the A, you've got a few extra options at the top. So instead of it being a conversation, you can make an announcement, and that's where the bar comes from there. You can choose whether everyone can reply or only people that are moderator owners of the channel can reply. And you can also post in multiple places, a bit like sending emails to multiple people. You can select other channels or other teams. So I might say, look, I want the send and the SLT to also get this. Bit of a moot point because it's going in general and every member of staff go in general. But if I was actually posting from admin team, I might want certain other audiences in the school to know, but not the whole school. So you can select channels, and then when you're ready, you post. If you want to do things like change the looks, you can have colors or you can add in pictures. If you decide your post isn't for you, just press the rubbish bin, discard, and it will be gone. If you ever want to go back and show someone you like something, you can put a thumbs up or an emotion, but on the three dots, and the three dots are key to everything. You can go and do various things. So you could have it translated to another language. You could copy the post, but you could delete it from there. You can pin it as well if it's something important that you want to stay at the beginning of the feed. Or you've got other actions in there which will link out to other functions, such as you could create a poll to survey staff on their feeling about something. It could be about the focus for a staff meeting as a staff team. So there's lots of different ways that you can improve communication and collaboration, be it posts or the files, and then you can just create new files by the new or new folders, and it will open up inside of here. So it might be that I'm going to make a new Word document. My new Word document, it might be called, actually, let's come out of that. Let's go into curriculum, and I'm going to create a new Word document here. I'm going to call it long-term planning. Create that. And as we said earlier, Teams being that single hub, Word opens up straight inside of Teams, and then I can add in there long-term planning, and then I might say autumn 1 and so forth. And this is saving instantly all the time. So all I need to do when I'm finished is press close, and then my document will be there. It's saved there in my Teams, so everyone can contribute what their long-term planning is for this term, can understand what each other's doing in different year groups or different subjects or different classes. And it's very, very easy to organize and get to your resources. So that's class teams. And then to finish off, you might have, sorry, that's staff teams. To finish off, we've got class teams. If we went into a class team, slightly different in here. Instead of having lots of channels, you have a whole team for each physical classroom in your school, and there's only a general channel that stops it being too confusing for pupils. But you've got the same features available. You've got posts for posting to each other, so it might be reflecting in emotions. It might be that you are going to set a notification, something about this week's learning. It could be that you've set a piece of homework as an assignment, and we'll look at how to set assignments and use teaching and learning elements of class teams in the second session in this series to support your Microsoft Educator qualification. You've also got files available. So in files, you've got area where you and the pupils can get to your resources. So still keep anything that's private in your OneDrive. If it's something collaborative for staff, it goes in the general channel of the staff team. If it's something that's meant for pupils to get to and staff, it goes in the files section here. If you want to make it more restricted, you can put things in class materials folder, and in the class materials folder, it's read only for pupils, so you can stop them taking or deleting or modifying. But if it's out here in the general area, they'll be able to pick it up, delete it, edit it, amend it. So please don't put the only copy of your planning in here, for instance, and also please don't put something really sensitive in there. It needs to be absolutely fine for all pupils to see, and should be nothing private in the way of data. There are other functions that are included in a class team, but we will discuss those during section 2 when we look at how teams can support teaching and learning. Other, for purposes of teams, we mentioned it, but you can have those PLC teams. So it could be that you've got an academy and you're part of a trust, and there might be a central trust team, and in there could be central trust functions like finance, operations, leadership teams, so that you could have those, and then relevant people in school get joined into those central trust channels. So under finance, typically you would have some central CFO from the trust, but you would also maybe have a business manager from each schools. Equally, you could use dedicated platforms like Governor Hub, but what you could do is you could have a governors team, and then you could have the general channel as the whole governors, and then you could have subcommittees listed down the side, and then all the notices for governors, instead of emailing things around, they all stay in there as posts, and important files for governors might go in here at the same time. So there's lots of different ways that you can use your teams, but as a word of caution, planning first. Think about how many teams you need. Also think about whether you're going to add those channels inside of areas such as a staff team to divide up the different roles in school. Don't add channels for class teams. Class teams are individually a whole team. And then do you need any other types of teams like PLCs for governors or for trusts? And build your repertoire of teams nice and slowly. Doesn't need to be something that you rush into, and it's usually best if initially this is something that's piloted with a small group of staff. but it makes it a lot easier from an administration point of view if you can have this linked up with that data sync that we mentioned earlier, and all this work of creating teams is taken care of. But also the beauty of it is when somebody new that joins, they're automatically enrolled. So if you bring a new member of staff in, they're joined to the staff team. If a pupil leaves, they're removed from the class team, but if another pupil joins in their place, they're automatically joined to the class team. And all of that will be done by checking your MIS database. You can do that manually, but then that becomes a big job for somebody to maintain that and ensure it's always accurate and up to date. So with today's session, we are going to leave it there, but the next session 2, we will pick up and we will have a look at just exactly what we do inside of a class team and how class teams can support all the different areas of teaching and learning. I'm just going to jump back over to the presentation itself now. We're just going to finish off to say that if you want to know more information, you can always go to, as I've said, the Turn It On website, which is www.turniton.co.uk/events or CPD. You can also follow Microsoft on social media. You can follow Turn It On social media. People that post interesting things regularly that are really helpful to use, somebody like Jen King, but also Mike Tholfson in America. If you've got any questions, you can email Microsoft directly, but also as we're a global training partner for Microsoft, you can email into office@turniton, and then we'll pick up your inquiries. If you want to leave any feedback or evaluation from this session, and you are even watching this session back later, you can scan that QR code, it's on screen, and that QR code will take you to the page to leave evaluation and feedback. Please do if you can, it really does help. Over time, our training has been massively remodeled on the back of getting feedback from these sessions. We also have a CPD library. We've got an entire YouTube library for previous sessions, so you can access it from there. And just to say, finally, Turn It On is an education IT company, and what we do is we focus on unleashing the potential of technology and bringing it to life. We can help you with all areas of school, whether it's CPD programs like this, whether it's consultancy and project management. If it's practical technical support, you might need information systems, MIS system help, or data protection. We've got all of that available so that you can come to us and we can help you with everything. So thank you very much for attending today's session. If you're watching this recording, we value the time that you've spared. And don't forget, there are more sessions available in this series. You can sign up for them on the event section of the Turn It On website, and that will take you to Eventbrite where you can sign up and join. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.